Welcome, gentle soul, to this tranquil corner of the universe. Wherever you are right now, curled up in your favorite chair, walking softly through dusklit streets, or just listening as you let the day fade away, know that you are in the right place, at the right time. Tonight, or perhaps today, depending on where you find yourself in the spinning world, I invite you to let your mind rest just a little bit softer. Here, there's no pressure to remember everything, no need to keep track of steps or notes or methods. You're free to simply listen, to let the ideas arrive and swirl around you like a gentle breeze. Tell me, how are you feeling right now? Is your heart a little weary from chasing outcomes that always seem to dance just out of reach? Are you looking for a gentle nudge of inspiration, a spark of something mysterious and new to light up your path? Or maybe you're simply curious, wanting to untangle the strange knots in the fabric of reality, the ones that never quite make sense no matter how much logic or effort you throw at them. Wherever your mind is wandering, I want you to feel safe and supported here. This space is for you, for your growth, your questions, your moments of wonder and quiet reflection. We're about to journey into a realm that's equal parts self-discovery and quantum possibility, a place where the boundaries between you and the universe are far blurrier than anyone dares admit. Here, in this soft, mindful moment, I encourage you to let yourself be both the seeker and the observer. There's no need to force answers or rush to conclusions. Let your breath settle, let your shoulders relax, and allow yourself to float in the gentle river of curiosity. You can always return to these ideas later. Tonight, let yourself simply feel the wonder. We're going to untangle a mystery that touches the very core of why you may feel stuck, why dreams sometimes twist into their shadows, why outcomes that should be yours drift further away, no matter how tightly you grasp. Our topic tonight, you're attracting the wrong outcomes. Here's the Selector Secret, is not just another motivational whisper in the dark. It's an unflinching exploration of the paradoxes that hide in plain sight and the invisible forces that shape your reality when you least expect it. Think about all the times you poured your energy, your focus, your entire being into chasing a goal, only to find yourself moving in the opposite direction. Every vision board, every positive affirmation, every moment of grit and sweat, and yet, the finish line seems to recede like a mirage. It's a glitch in the universe's operating system. Tonight, we're not here to smooth it over or make you comfortable. We're here to see it, to sit with it, to tease out the hidden logic behind the chaos. Let's acknowledge something profound. The universe is not a vending machine, and your desires are not quarters to be dropped in, hoping for a neat, wrapped result. There's something deeper at play, a selector mechanism so subtle that most never see it, even as it shapes every chapter of their story. We live in a world that prizes positive thinking, relentless hustle, and the constant chase for more. The message is everywhere. If you just want it badly enough, if you just keep pushing, the universe will eventually bend to your will. But what if this is a lie told by well-meaning dreamers who never paused long enough to notice the patterns? What if reality listens less to your words and more to the quiet, conflicted signals pulsing beneath the surface of your mind? As we wander together through these quantum riddles and ancient paradoxes, you might begin to see your life with new eyes. Why do the most desperate wishes summon their opposite? Why does reality seem to ignore your loudest affirmations, but respond instantly to the things you whisper in secret? What invisible laws are at work, quietly reshuffling your fate with every thought, every hope, every hidden fear? Tonight, the answers won't be wrapped up with a bow. You will not be handed a map. Instead, you'll be given a lantern, a light to carry into the unknown corners of your own experience. There will be glitches, paradoxes, and uncomfortable truths. But there will also be revelation, a quiet reassurance that you're not broken or unlucky or missing some vital gene. The universe's Selector Secret is operating perfectly. You just haven't learned how to see it yet. We'll move gently, but with precision, as we open each chapter of this mystery. You'll notice patterns where before there was only chaos. You'll discover the hidden selectors, the strange reversals, the quantum echoes that shape your destiny in ways both beautiful and cruel. There will be moments of awe, moments of tension, and moments when you feel the very ground beneath your beliefs begin to shift. Let yourself be open. Let yourself relax into the not knowing. This isn't a lecture or a formula. It's an invitation to experience your reality through a new lens, to stretch the boundaries of what you thought was possible. Tonight, you're not required to fix, solve, or become anything at all. You are simply asked to witness, to feel, to wonder. So, whether you're listening from a city alive with neon lights, a quiet rural lane, or a hidden corner of your own mind, thank you for joining me. You are the explorer, the observer, the question, and perhaps, just perhaps, the answer you've been seeking all along. Settle in. Allow the universe to surprise you. You are safe here, and the journey ahead is yours to savor. This is a space for relaxation, inspiration, and deep personal development. Wherever you are, however you feel tonight, you are welcome, and you are not alone. Let's begin unraveling the Selector Secret. Let's step into the first paradox, the first reality glitch that demands to be noticed, the unseen magnet, and the possibility that you may be calling in the exact opposite of what you want. How is it possible to work harder than ever, visualize every day, and still spiral further from your goals? A question hangs in the air, raw and uncomfortable. You can almost feel it burning through the empty spaces where hope used to live. How can it be that, with all the motivation, all the clarity of vision, all the positive rituals, you find yourself further away from the outcomes you crave? This is not just an inconvenient slip or a momentary lapse. It is a pattern. And for many, it is the deepest source of frustration and confusion. Reality, it seems, has rules that aren't written in any self-help manual. There's an unseen magnet at work, one that doesn't care about your plans or promises, your affirmations or your vision boards. In fact, sometimes it feels as though the universe is actively conspiring against your wishes, responding not with reward but with reversal. Let's look at this with unflinching honesty. You set your sights on a promotion, pour every spare ounce of energy into proving your worth, visualize your success every night before sleep. Yet, with every step, the opportunity drifts further away, often landing in someone else's lap. Or you yearn for a relationship, nurture your hope with careful optimism, practice gratitude, keep your heart open, and somehow, you find yourself lonelier than ever, attracting situations that only reinforce your longing. It's tempting to dismiss this as bad luck, to blame the world, or worse, to blame yourself. But what if this is not about luck or worthiness at all? What if the entire system is working perfectly, just not in the way you were led to believe? The illusion of positive attraction is powerful. It promises that with enough intention, enough purity of desire, you can bend reality to your will. This belief is comforting, almost addictive. But reality has never been so easily tamed. The evidence is everywhere. The more desperate the wish, the more ferociously it summons its opposite. The more tightly you cling to an outcome, the faster it slips through your fingers. There is a glitch here, a fracture in the logic we're told to trust. Cause and effect are supposed to be simple. You want, you act, you receive. Yet, for so many, the harder you want, the further you fall behind. The louder you shout, the quieter your results become. The more you chase, the more distant your dreams become. Why does this happen? There is an invisible law at work, something so subtle that it's almost impossible to see while you're caught in its web. This law isn't written in any book, but you've felt it all your life. It's the force that makes certainty impossible, the reason why no formula can guarantee you the future you desire. The unseen magnet is not powered by your stated wishes or conscious thoughts. Instead, it draws its strength from something deeper, something hidden in the fabric of your being. It responds not to what you want, but to the frequency you inhabit when you want it. That frequency, more often than not, is a complex cocktail of hope and fear, desire and doubt, longing and lack. Every time you fix your gaze on an outcome, you send out a signal. Not just a signal of want, but a signal of not having. The universe, exquisitely sensitive, doesn't speak in the language of words, but in the deeper, unspoken language of vibration. When you want something with all your might, your very intensity reveals a silent belief that you do not yet have it, that you are not yet it, that the universe is lacking, and so are you. This is the real glitch. The unseen magnet doesn't care about your conscious desires. It is tuned to the hidden code beneath them. It responds to the subtext, the unspoken undercurrent of lack that pulses through your every wish. And so, it faithfully delivers outcomes that confirm the secret code. Not the one you say aloud, but the one you whisper in fear, the one you feel in your bones when the lights go out. Every vision board becomes a monument to absence. Every affirmation, a subtle reminder of distance. Every act of striving becomes another stroke in the portrait of not yet, not enough, not here. This isn't a punishment, nor is it a flaw in your spirit. It is the selector mechanism at work, quiet, relentless, impossibly precise. Cannot be fooled by surface intentions or by clever tricks. It reads the quantum state of your being and reflects it back to you, unfiltered and uncompromising. Does this mean all effort is wasted? Not at all. It simply means that the game you've been playing is rigged in a way you never noticed. The rules are different. The law is different. And until you see the unseen magnet for what it is, you will continue to call in the exact opposite of what you want, no matter how skillfully you play. You may notice, in your own life, how the moments of greatest surrender, the times when you let go without bitterness or urgency, are often the moments when reality shifts in your favor. There is a hidden symmetry here, a secret order. But before you can learn to work with it, you must first see the glitch for what it is. A break in the comforting story you've been sold. A raw and uncomfortable truth that demands a new kind of courage. So tonight, let's stand together in this tension. Let's acknowledge the unseen magnet and the strange outcomes it brings. Let's resist the urge to explain it away or soften its edges. There is power in facing the paradox, in letting yourself feel the friction between desire and result. In this friction, a new kind of clarity can emerge, one that is not based on wishful thinking, but on seeing reality as it truly is. The Selector Secret is not about wishing harder or working smarter. It is about learning to read the hidden codes, to feel the subtle forces at play beneath your wants and needs. It is about stepping beyond the illusion of control and finding the place where true power resides, not in the chase, but in the quiet state of being that precedes all outcomes. As you absorb these ideas, you may notice a subtle shift within yourself. The tension between wanting and having, between striving and surrendering, is where the true adventure lies. This is the edge, the frontier, the place where miracles can happen, but only when you stop forcing them, only when you learn to see with new eyes. So let's rest here for a moment, in this unsettling realization. The unseen magnet is always at work, pulling you not toward your stated dreams, but toward the frequency of your deepest, often unspoken beliefs. The more you want, the more you announce your lack. The more you chase, the more you confirm your distance from what you seek. The paradox is real. The tension is sharp. And now that you see the glitch, the only way forward is to keep questioning, keep feeling, keep allowing the discomfort to reveal what's been hidden all along. Next, we will step into an even stranger paradox. The one where every step you take toward your desires might be quietly sealing your fate to never reach them. If attraction is an invisible magnet with twisted polarity, what if every pursuit you begin secretly rigs the game against you? Why does every step toward what you want quietly seal your fate to never have it? The question slices through expectation like lightning splitting a midnight sky. The natural instinct, when a dream feels distant, is to double down on effort, to lean harder into the pursuit, to run faster, shout louder, fill every moment with schemes and strategies that promise to close the gap. Yet time and again, those steps become a quiet chain, binding you not to fulfillment but to the constant experience of pursuit itself. The world admires hustle. The world praises the relentless. Entire industries thrive on the promise that those who work the hardest, who chase with the most ferocity, will win the ultimate prize. But beneath this myth is a silent mechanism, a paradox ticking away. Every act of chasing confirms, with absolute certainty, that you are separate from your goal. You are reinforcing distance with every attempt to close it. Notice how the most driven become addicted not to results, but to motion. The runner chases the horizon, only to find that the line where sky meets earth recedes with every stride. The more energy is invested in pursuit, the more the object of desire transforms into a vanishing point. Never caught, never conquered, always just beyond reach. The universe, in its strange way, doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to the state of being a pursuer, a chaser, a seeker. To chase is to announce to reality, I do not yet have. It is to declare with every breath and heartbeat, I am not yet. The very structure of pursuit encodes lack, and this lack becomes the filter through which every possibility is sorted. The prize is never where you are. It is always somewhere else, someone else just out of grasp. The more passionately you run, the more passionately you remain in motion, never in possession, always in pursuit. This is not a flaw in effort or a problem with ambition. It is a flaw in the logic of desire itself. Chasing, at its core, is a confession. It is the language of distance, and distance multiplies with every act meant to close it. Even the most disciplined strategies and the most consistent effort cannot outweigh this paradox, because their very foundation is built upon a subtle but constant state of absence. Look closely at those moments of pursuit in your life. Each time you have run after love, success, recognition, you may notice a hidden current beneath your actions. The harder you chase, the more deeply you root yourself in the identity of one who does not have. The universe, responding with surgical precision, mirrors that identity back in forms you cannot anticipate. Missed opportunities, endless detours, sudden reversals, outcomes that twist just out of reach at the last possible moment. The paradox of pursuit is merciless. The goalpost moves. The treasure map rewrites itself. The game always finds new ways to reinforce the original declaration. I am chasing, and therefore I do not have. The universe is not punishing, but it is perfectly precise. Cannot contradict the signal you are sending. Every plan, every vision, every carefully executed step is read not as an intention to receive, but as evidence that you are defined by the pursuit, not the possession. This is the reason some people spend their entire lives chasing wealth, love, meaning, never noticing that the act of seeking ensures permanent separation. Their life becomes a loop. Pursue, almost grasp, lose, recalibrate, pursue again. The outcome is always just over the next hill, around the next corner, after the next achievement. And the more the chase intensifies, the more the cycle tightens. You may ask, is there no value in striving? No purpose in action? The paradox does not condemn movement. It only exposes the invisible contract hidden beneath it. When you move from lack, when you act from the core belief that fulfillment is elsewhere, the universe upholds that belief with unwavering consistency. But when action flows from a different center, when it becomes an expression rather than a pursuit, the entire landscape shifts. Still, the paradox remains relentless for as long as you run within its rules. The drive to chase, to force, to manipulate outcomes with effort alone is seductive. It offers a comforting illusion of control. But control is a shadow here, and the more you reach for it, the more the substance slips away. There is a darker side to this paradox, a sharp edge that cuts deepest when you refuse to see it. The world tells you that more is always possible with more effort, more willpower, more self-sacrifice. The world rarely admits that the cost of endless pursuit is endless absence. It is a debt that cannot be repaid, a hunger that grows with every attempt to feed it. Consider the inner experience of chasing. A mind always set on the future, a heart never allowed to settle in the present. There is a restlessness, a gnawing sense that peace is postponed until some condition is met. But the universe has no mechanism for delayed fulfillment. It responds only to the state of being now. When you chase, you are not fulfilled, and so fulfillment cannot come. The paradox is not an enemy to be defeated, but a law to be seen. To see it is to begin unwinding the spell. To notice that your chase, however noble or passionate, is writing an invisible script that reality cannot ignore. You are not punished for wanting, but you are bound by the frequency of pursuit. This can be unsettling, even infuriating. It means that all the rules you were taught, work harder, want more, chase relentlessly, may be keeping you locked in the very story you wish to escape. It means that your dreams are not being denied by some cosmic injustice, but by the precise, merciless mechanics of a universe that responds to being, not to wanting. There are those who wake up to this paradox and choose a different path. They release the chase, not by abandoning ambition, but by dissolving the identity of the pursuer. They begin to act from the place of wholeness, to move not toward but from the reality they wish to experience. They become, in subtle ways, the selector, not the seeker. But before that shift can occur, the paradox must be acknowledged fully. Every pursuit that arises from lack is a prayer to never arrive. Every action rooted in absence is a request for more absence. The game cannot be won by playing harder. It can only be won by changing the player's stance entirely. Now that you see attraction as an invisible magnet with twisted polarity, what if every pursuit you begin secretly rigs the game against you? The hidden force is not malice, but perfect mirroring. Your reality is not ignoring your wishes. It is reflecting the signal you send, with exquisite and sometimes cruel accuracy. This awareness is not a comfort, but it is a key. It is the moment when you stand at the edge of your own story, see the trap for what it is, and become capable of choosing something entirely new. It is the invitation to pause, to question, to sense the subtle difference between acting from wholeness and acting from need. The next paradox is even more disturbing. When you think you're selecting outcomes, what if it's the outcomes that are selecting you? If your very chase is what triggers the wrong results, what power is choosing your outcomes behind your back? When you think you're selecting outcomes, what if it's the outcomes that are selecting you? Reality loves a contradiction. At the heart of every effort to shape destiny, there is a silent question. Who or what is actually in control? The myth of the chooser runs deep in modern culture, the idea that, with enough focus and intention, you become the master selector, drawing into your life only what you decide to experience. But reality, in its strangest moments, has a way of turning the spotlight around. It feels empowering to believe you are the selector, the one wielding influence over every aspect of your journey. You visualize, you affirm, you plan, you act. The rituals of control are soothing. They promise certainty, predictability, reward. Yet outcomes often arrive with a twist, dressed in forms you never expected, sometimes the very ones you tried hardest to avoid. This is where the illusion of selection becomes most powerful. You stand on the stage, script in hand, convinced you are casting roles and directing scenes. Yet behind the velvet curtain, an unseen hand is shuffling the script, recasting the roles, slipping in new characters and erasing old lines. The question grows heavier. Are you truly selecting your outcomes, or are the outcomes selecting you? Consider the moments when life seemed to organize itself around you, as if by unseen orchestration. The job offer that arrives from nowhere, the relationship that materializes just as you stop searching, the breakthrough that bursts through routine at the very edge of surrender. In these moments, the distinction between hunter and hunted begins to blur. This is the selector illusion at work. The universe, in its most quantum expression, appears to be a two-way mirror. Every time you attempt to select an outcome, you are also being selected by circumstances, by probabilities, by hidden patterns that run deeper than willpower or conscious intent. The dance is mutual, recursive, layered in mystery. If you observe the mechanics of your own life with unflinching honesty, a strange truth emerges. The outcomes you attract are not always the ones you intended, but they are always the ones you are matched to by invisible criteria. These criteria are not found in your conscious goals, but in the total state of your being: beliefs, emotions, fears, and the unsaid assumptions that vibrate beneath your thoughts. Here is the glitch. You think you are the hunter, but much of your experience is the result of being hunted by outcomes that are drawn to the frequency you broadcast, regardless of your intentions. The roles are reversed. The selector is also the selected, and the line between the two is never as clear as you want it to be. The illusion deepens in moments of triumph and failure alike. You achieve a goal only to find it hollow, or you lose something you thought essential only to discover new possibilities. Outcomes arrive, not always in response to your wishes, but in response to the hidden architecture of your identity. The world is a mirror with its own agenda, and you are both the image and the reflection. To see this is to experience a kind of vertigo, the idea that you are not always the master selector, that outcomes may be choosing you as much as you are choosing them, unravels the very notion of control. It reveals a universe that is less a vending machine and more a living organism, responding to signals you do not consciously send. When you act from pursuit, you broadcast a signal of seeking, and outcomes suited to seekers find you. When you radiate lack, you are matched with circumstances that keep lack alive. When you shift, even slightly, into a state of wholeness, the entire field of possibility reshapes itself. Not because you forced it, but because the selector within you has changed frequency. There is a subtle intelligence at work in the fabric of reality, one that defies all attempts to map or manipulate it. Outcomes, in this sense, are not neutral. They are agents, alive in some way, drawn to the resonance you carry. You are not the lone selector in an empty universe. You are in constant conversation with the field itself, a dance of signal and response, hunter and hunted. This can feel unsettling, even threatening to the ego. The idea that you are being chosen, even as you choose, demands a humility that few are willing to entertain. It dissolves the fantasy of total control, replacing it with a deeper, more mysterious participation. The outcomes you receive are the ones you are most attuned to, sometimes regardless of what you say you want. In practical terms, this means that the outer rituals of selection, goal setting, affirmations, strategies, are always secondary to the inner reality you inhabit. The field listens to your total state, not just your stated preferences. The moment you shift your inner reality, the range of possible outcomes shifts with it. You become a different kind of selector, one who participates in the ongoing creation of possibility, rather than merely chasing it. If your very chase is what triggers the wrong results, what power is choosing your outcomes behind your back? The answer is not simple, and it is not always comfortable. The power lies in the patterns you nurture, the identity you assume, the stories you tell about who you are and what is possible. The universe is listening, but not to your words. It listens to your state. The selector illusion is not a verdict, but an invitation. An invitation to stop mistaking surface rituals for the real work of creation. An invitation to recognize that you are both the shaper and the shaped, the hunter and the hunted, the selector and the selected. Power, in this new world, is less about controlling outcomes and more about attuning yourself to the outcomes you truly wish to experience. This is a different kind of mastery, one that grows in the quiet, in the pause between action and outcome, in the willingness to see yourself not as a lonely chooser, but as a participant in a living, responsive universe. The Selector Secret is not about overpowering fate, but about partnering with it, learning its rhythms, and finding the resonance that draws the right outcomes toward you. As the illusion fades, a new kind of clarity emerges. You begin to notice the outcomes that once eluded you drifting closer, not by force, but by resonance. You become less obsessed with chasing, more interested in tuning. The world begins to feel less hostile, less random, more like a conversation than a competition. This is the beginning of a new relationship with reality, one that honors the paradox, respects the mystery, and surrenders the illusion of total control. In this space, true power is born, not from chasing, not from force, but from the subtle art of being matched to what you desire. Next, we will uncover a question even more unsettling. Why does reality respond to what you whisper to yourself at 2 a.m., but ignore what you scream at the world? If your pursuit is being chosen by hidden forces, could your deepest, most secret beliefs be echoing louder than your public ambition? Why does reality respond to what you whisper to yourself at 2 a.m., but ignore what you scream at the world? In the silent hours, when the world's distractions die down, the truth about who you are, your real hopes, fears, doubts, emerges like a shadow at the foot of your bed. These are not the moments scripted for social media or meant for public display. These are the moments when your mind drifts, uncensored, through the corridors of your own thoughts. This is the hour when reality listens, not to your carefully planned affirmations, not to your declarations shouted from the rooftops, but to the faintest, most private whisperings of your soul. There is a terrifying honesty in the things you say to yourself when no one is listening. You can deny them all day, polish your persona, perfect your presentation, but the echo chamber of your subconscious cannot be fooled. You are, at your core, a transmitter broadcasting signals both loud and quiet, both conscious and hidden, into the field that shapes every detail of your life. And that field is exquisitely tuned to the frequency of your secrets. You may have noticed it. The things you most desperately hope no one knows about you, the beliefs you try hardest to suppress, the fears you hush with positive thinking. These are the very currents that seem to shape the events of your life. Why does reality appear to ignore the grand, confident speeches you make, but respond with uncanny precision to the passing thoughts, the background anxieties, the late-night confessions you barely admit to yourself? This is the echo effect, and it is the invisible law that governs the outcomes you receive. When you wake in the dark, and your mind races with what-ifs, with worries about failure, with ancient stories of not-enoughness, the universe listens with perfect attention. It does not judge, but it does respond. It takes your secrets, the ones you believe are safely hidden, and crafts them into experiences so real, so unavoidably true, that you are forced to confront them. You shout your ambitions from the rooftops, tell yourself and the world that you are confident, abundant, worthy. But underneath, the echo of old beliefs continues to hum, undisturbed by your daylight performance. You want to be successful, but a whisper inside says, "You're not good enough." You want to be loved, but a quiet thought insists, "People always leave." You want to be healthy, but an ancient fear repeats, "Your body is fragile." It is these whispers, not your declarations, that the universe shapes itself around. The echo effect operates beneath logic. It bypasses the intellect, the willpower, the conscious effort to override your doubts. The law is simple but merciless. The field reflects your dominant signal, and that signal is determined not by your loudest statements, but by your most consistent, emotionally charged beliefs, especially those kept secret. Think of the times when you did everything right. You set intentions, recited affirmations, even convinced yourself, for a while, that change was happening. But nothing changed. Outcomes continued to loop, repeating the same old disappointments in new disguises. It was as if the world could not hear you at all. And in a sense, it couldn't. It was listening to a different broadcast, the low-frequency, persistent hum of your private beliefs. This is not a punishment. It is not the universe conspiring against you. It is the relentless accuracy of a system that cannot be tricked. The field does not respond to words alone, but to the energy those words are built upon. When there is a conflict, when you say one thing but feel another, the stronger signal always wins. And the strongest signals are those you nurture in the privacy of your own mind. You might think, then how can I ever change? If my secrets are the only things that matter, am I doomed to repeat my hidden fears forever? But the echo effect is not a trap. It is an opportunity. It forces you to confront the difference between what you want and what you truly believe. It makes honesty unavoidable. The work is no longer to simply want harder, but to listen more deeply to the echoes within. Notice the patterns. If every relationship ends the same way, every career move unravels at the same point, every new effort finds a way to sabotage itself, the echo effect is at work. It is not enough to shout your intentions. You must turn inward and hear the quieter voices, the ones that refuse to be silenced by willpower alone. There is a paradox at play. The more you try to drown out your secrets with noise, affirmations, declarations, strategies, the louder their echo becomes. Suppression only amplifies the signal. Reality, in its infinite wisdom, will continue to reflect your true beliefs until you are willing to witness them fully. The field is a perfect mirror. It cannot be fooled by noise. Some will resist this truth, clinging to the fantasy that effort alone can overwrite the echo. But the world is littered with those who tried and failed, who shouted their way into exhaustion without ever changing the signal underneath. The universe, it seems, would rather force you to honesty than reward you for self-deception. The most powerful shifts happen not when you overpower your secrets, but when you acknowledge them. When you can sit with the discomfort of your true beliefs without shame, without resistance, the echo begins to change, softens, shifts, becomes open to new frequencies. But as long as you hide from yourself, the field will hide your desires from you. This is why reality responds to what you whisper at 2 a.m., but ignores what you scream at the world. The late-night confessions, the fears you think are private, the doubts you dare not share. These are the commands the universe cannot help but obey. Your secrets are not private at all. They are the code the field runs on. Could your hidden beliefs be echoing louder than your public ambition? The answer is always yes. The only way to break the loop is to bring those beliefs into the light, to feel them fully, to let them be heard. Only then does the signal shift. Only then does reality become capable of changing with you, not in spite of you. The echo effect is a kind of mercy, as much as it is a curse. It ensures that you can never wander too far from the truth of your own being. It refuses to reward self-deception, forcing you again and again to reconcile the difference between the life you desire and the story you tell yourself in secret. There is nowhere to hide, and this is the beginning of real freedom. If you are brave enough to face your own echoes, to stop running from your secrets, you become a new kind of transmitter. You send out a signal of coherence, your desires and your beliefs aligned. In that state, the field responds with speed and accuracy that feels miraculous. But the journey always begins in the shadows, in the soft, late-night whispers where your real story lives. If you're being hunted by the outcomes you fear, could your hidden beliefs be echoing louder than your public ambition? Next, we will face an even deeper glitch. Why does every intense desire trigger an invisible force that pushes it further away? If reality responds only to what's secret, what paradox is unleashed when you desperately want something? Why does every intense desire trigger an invisible force that pushes it further away? Desire is a fire, burning, intoxicating, impossible to ignore. It pulses through your veins, colors your dreams, shapes the outlines of your days. The world worships desire, treating it as the engine of progress, the source of all creation. Yet there is a darker side to this force, a paradox that undermines every lesson about wanting. The more you want, the further away the object of your desire seems to move. This is the glitch in desire, the silent reversal that turns every wish into a chase, every longing into a mirage. The more you focus on what you want, the more reality arranges itself to keep it out of reach. It's not cruelty, but precision. It's not sabotage, but symmetry. Desire, when it becomes desperate, when it becomes the center of your reality, carries with it a signal the universe cannot ignore. I do not have. That signal, more than any other, is faithfully reflected. You may recognize the pattern. You want a relationship so badly that every date is weighed down by expectation. Every silence feels like a judgment. Every misstep becomes another proof that love is out of reach. You want success so much that every minor setback feels catastrophic. Every victory is instantly diminished by the next hunger. The more you desire, the more you chase, the more the universe mirrors back the lack at the core of your longing. This is the glitch. Desire at high intensity becomes indistinguishable from absence. The field reads the frequency beneath the wish, not the wish itself. The intensity is not interpreted as commitment, but as lack. The universe, always literal, gives you more of the state you are broadcasting, not the object you crave, but the feeling of craving itself. Some will argue that desire is essential, that nothing happens without it. But what they fail to see is the difference between desire as a gentle guide and desire as an all-consuming obsession. When you are curious, open, playful, desire can open doors. But when you are desperate, when you are haunted by the need to have, every action becomes a confirmation of its absence. It's a cruel joke. The harder you want, the less you receive. The universe responds not to the words you use, but to the energy beneath them. Wanting is not a neutral force. It is a declaration of lack, a confession that something essential is missing. The more you reinforce that confession, the more reality gives you reasons to believe it. Desire, unchecked, becomes a trap. It is a loop that feeds itself, intensifies with every failure, grows more powerful with every denial. You find yourself circling the same outcomes, unable to escape the gravitational pull of your own wanting. The object of desire becomes not a goal, but an idol, a god that demands sacrifice, but never delivers the promised blessing. There is no shame in wanting. Desire is not the enemy. But the glitch appears when wanting becomes the center of your identity, when you define yourself by the things you lack rather than the reality you inhabit. In that moment, you lose touch with the field of possibility, become a prisoner of your own need, and the universe responds by keeping the gates firmly shut. This is the hidden cost of intense desire. It creates resistance, a counterforce that grows stronger with every act of pursuit. The universe, like a sensitive instrument, detects not only your wishes but your attachment to them. The more attached you are, the more you signal that you are incomplete, unfinished, not yet whole. The field has no choice but to reflect that signal. Some will try to outsmart the glitch, pretend not to care, act aloof, feign indifference. But the field is not fooled by surface performances. It listens to the signal beneath the act. If you are burning with desire while pretending not to care, the signal remains unchanged. The field reads only truth. There is a strange freedom in seeing this clearly. You are not being punished for wanting, but you are being shown the price of attachment. The more you need, the less you have. The more you clutch, the more you repel. The universe is not cruel, only honest. It responds with perfect fidelity to the state you inhabit, not the outcomes you demand. The glitch in desire is a mirror, held up to the deepest parts of yourself. It asks you to see the difference between longing and presence, between needing and being. When you release your grip, when you soften your attachment, when you allow yourself to want without needing, the field shifts. Possibilities multiply. Outcomes become fluid again. The resistance dissolves. It is not easy. Every story you've been told about success, love, meaning, is built on the myth that wanting is enough. But reality is stranger than the myth. The field is responsive, not to your cravings, but to your coherence. When you are at peace with what is, even as you desire more, the gates open. When you need nothing, everything becomes possible. If reality responds only to what's secret, what paradox is unleashed when you desperately want something? The answer is this: the more you signal your lack, the more lack becomes your experience. The more you chase, the more you remain a chaser. There is a deeper art to creation, one that transcends the loop of wanting and not having. It begins with presence, with gratitude, with the willingness to inhabit your life fully, even as you reach for new possibilities. The field listens for this balance, the dance between desire and contentment, between action and surrender. To master the glitch in desire is not to suppress your wishes, but to witness them without becoming enslaved by them. It is to let your dreams breathe, to let them live in the field of possibility, without demanding that they arrive on your schedule, in your way, according to your script. This is the paradox that unlocks everything. When you can want without needing, when you can desire without attachment, when you can hold your dreams lightly, you become a magnet for outcomes you never could have forced into existence. The universe conspires not against you, but with you when you release your grip, when you trust the field, when you become the signal you wish to receive. If you can learn this art, the loop dissolves. The glitch heals itself. Desire becomes a gentle current, guiding you toward new possibilities, rather than a storm that keeps you circling the same horizon. Next, we will step into a darker reflection. How could the very thing you hate the most be secretly growing stronger with your every thought? If your wants make outcomes run, what if your hates are feeding the very things you wish to destroy? How could the very thing you hate the most be secretly growing stronger with your every thought? Step into the uncomfortable clarity of this question, and reality tilts in your hands. You move through the world sure of what you want, but even more certain about what you want to avoid. You name your aversions: failure, loss, betrayal, poverty, loneliness, ridicule. You call them enemies, wrap them in layers of distance, and swear you will never let them near. Yet again and again, the things you dread seem to circle back, finding ways to manifest, even in disguise, even against your most valiant resistance. This is the toxic mirror, an ancient mechanism hiding in plain sight. The world has always taught that focus brings power. Focus on the positive, they say, and positive things will grow. But the other side of that coin is rarely spoken aloud. Focus also sharpens the unwanted, amplifies the feared, strengthens the despised. The universe does not separate intention from attention. It listens to energy without prejudice, reflecting back whatever you feed with the fire of your focus. Look closer at your days. How many moments are spent rehearsing what you never want to happen? How much of your inner voice is spent waging silent war against potential threats, reliving old betrayals, resenting the success of rivals, scanning for evidence of impending disaster? These are not idle thoughts. Each one is a spark thrown into the quantum field, a line of code written into the story the universe insists on reading back to you. You were taught to set goals, to chase outcomes, to dream big, but not how to handle the shadow, the persistent negativity that runs alongside your hopes. And so, in the act of pushing away the unwanted, you inadvertently become its magnet. The toxic mirror responds not to your surface wishes, but to the charge of your deepest aversions. The logic is brutal. Every ounce of hatred, every flash of resentment, every surge of anxiety is fuel for the thing you wish most to avoid. The more you rail against it, the stronger its reflection becomes. You are not running from the enemy. You are unknowingly watering its roots. Consider the times you tried to escape a pattern, left a job to avoid conflict, moved cities to outrun loneliness, cut ties to flee betrayal, only to recreate the very thing you were trying to destroy again and again. The faces may change, the details may shift, but the underlying theme returns, as if drawn by gravity. The toxic mirror is unyielding. It reflects not just what you desire, but what you obsess over, what you cannot let go of, what you most passionately reject. It's not about punishment. The universe is not cruel. It is simply precise, exquisitely sensitive to the frequencies you emit, regardless of their moral coloring. Attention, after all, is energy, and energy, wherever it flows, will find a way to manifest. The more fiercely you fight an outcome, the more you ensure its presence. Hatred is not absence. It is a relationship. Aversion is not avoidance. It is attachment in negative polarity. Every time you rage against injustice, you entangle yourself with it. Every time you wish for someone's downfall, you tie your fate to theirs. Every time you nurse an old wound, you ensure it remains open, bleeding energy into the world. The toxic mirror is not subtle. It is a law that cannot be outwitted by denial or distraction. The things you fight, resist, curse, or fear grow larger, more persistent, more central to your story. The energy you devote to their destruction only multiplies their influence. The universe does not care if your attention is loving or loathing. It cares only that you are paying attention. Notice, too, how this mechanism turns the most well-meaning intentions into self-fulfilling traps. You vow never to be like your parents, and yet their patterns emerge in your actions, your choices, your voice. You swear to never let anyone hurt you again, and so you become guarded, closed, attracting situations that confirm your isolation. The things you most despise are etched into the fabric of your identity, and the mirror reflects them with increasing clarity. For many, the toxic mirror feels like a curse, but it is, in truth, a compass, a ruthless guide pointing directly at the work you have yet to do within yourself. The universe, impartial and unsentimental, uses your aversions as raw material for your growth. It insists, over and over, that you confront what you cannot accept, what you cannot forgive, what you cannot release. There is only one way out of the toxic mirror, and it is through acceptance, not rejection. The energies you make peace with lose their hold. The outcomes you stop fighting stop needing to return. It is not passivity or surrender. It is the ultimate act of courage, to face your shadow and refuse to feed it any longer. Some will resist this truth, clinging to blame, to indignation, to the comforting identity of the righteous victim. They will continue to find their nemesis in every new circumstance, every new relationship, every new endeavor. The toxic mirror never tires. It will return again and again until its lesson is learned. Attention is creative. Focus is power. Hatred is fuel for the very thing you would banish. This is not a call to tolerate injustice or endure suffering. It is a call to reclaim your energy, to refuse to spend another ounce of your precious focus on feeding what you despise. It is the realization that you are not a passive victim of circumstance, but an active participant in the outcomes you experience. The mirror demands radical honesty. What are you truly feeding with your attention? What patterns do you rehearse? Not just with your words, but with your most powerful emotions. What do you complain about day after day? The answers to these questions are the blueprint for what will manifest next. If your wants make outcomes run, what if your hates are feeding the very things you wish to destroy? The paradox is inescapable. To be free, you must stop pouring energy into the things you despise. To change your life, you must change what you focus on. Not just in your goals, but in your aversions. The universe responds with relentless accuracy, shaping reality to match the frequency of your strongest emotion, no matter which way it points. Next, we will step out of the shadow and into a revelation that shatters logic. What if the only way to make anything yours is to stop wanting it entirely? If the things you despise follow you, what happens when you turn your back on what you desire? What if the only way to make anything yours is to stop wanting it entirely? The logic of achievement collapses here. The world teaches you to want, to strive, to hunger for the prize with everything in your being. The more you desire, the more you should achieve. The harder you try, the closer you should get. Yet time and again, the things you most desperately want slip away, while the things you barely notice or simply allow seem to find you with almost no effort at all. This is the Selector Secret, the great reversal that makes a mockery of everything you thought you knew about success, love, happiness, fulfillment. It is the hidden mechanism that operates behind the scenes, shuffling outcomes and opportunities with a ruthless indifference to your preferences. The more you chase, the more the prize retreats. The more you let go, the more it rushes forward to meet you. It is not laziness, not passivity, not the abdication of agency. It is the realization that wanting creates distance, and letting go collapses it. When you release your grip, the energy that once kept the prize at bay dissolves. When you stop feeding the hunger, you become a match for fulfillment. Look at the moments in your life when things flowed, when love arrived effortlessly, when opportunities seemed to appear out of nowhere, when joy erupted unplanned. What did those moments have in common? A sense of ease, of nonchalance, of not needing anything at all. You were not chasing, not forcing, not demanding. You were simply being, and in that state, the universe responded by delivering what you once thought required endless struggle. This is not an argument for apathy. It is an invitation to discover a different kind of power, the power of non-attachment. When you turn your back on the prize, when you release your desperate grip, when you stop measuring your worth by outcomes, you become open, available, magnetic. The prize, sensing your wholeness, begins to chase you. The Selector Secret is a glitch in reality's code. It is the reason why people who don't care seem to have things handed to them, while those who need it most remain hungry. It is the invisible law that says, need repels, contentment attracts. Letting go is the most powerful form of selection. Some will reject this idea, convinced that it undermines ambition, that it rewards indifference. But non-attachment is not indifference. It is a deep trust in the field, a confidence that what is meant for you cannot miss you, that what is not meant for you cannot be forced. It is the radical act of refusing to make your happiness dependent on an outcome. This shift is not easy. Every instinct screams to hold on tighter, to want more, to chase harder. The world rewards effort and punishes surrender. But reality does not play by the world's rules. The universe, uncaring of your desperation, responds to your state of being. When you radiate fullness, you become the selector. When you radiate emptiness, you remain the seeker. You may notice in the moments when you finally give up, when you stop checking your phone for that message, stop obsessing over the promotion, stop strategizing for love, that the very thing you once craved appears, often unexpectedly. It is as if reality was waiting for you to let go, to step aside, to make space for what could not enter when you were blocking the door with your need. This is the power of ignoring the prize. Not pretending you don't care, not suppressing your desire, but truly releasing your attachment to outcome. When you do, your energy shifts. You become a signal of wholeness, not lack. The field responds with abundance, not scarcity. The universe, free from your resistance, delivers what you are now ready to receive. There is a subtle art to this. It is not about giving up on your dreams, but about giving up on your need for them to define you. It is about trusting that your worth is not measured by what you achieve, but by who you are. It is about finding satisfaction in the present, even as you hold space for the future. The Selector Secret is not a loophole to be exploited. It is a fundamental law of creation. When you stop needing, you start attracting. When you stop chasing, you start selecting. When you release the prize pursues you. If the things you despise follow you, what happens when you turn your back on what you desire? You become free. You become magnetic. You become the selector, not the seeker. Next, we will face a question that explodes the idea of control. Why does surrendering the outcome unlock doors that force can never open? If letting go makes what you want chase you, could your greatest power be in giving up control? Control is a god worshipped by modern minds. The language of success is saturated with its icons. Planners, to-do lists, deadlines, hacks, strategies. Each one promising leverage over the mysterious, promising to turn chaos into order and randomness into certainty. The world salutes the controller, the orchestrator, the one whose grip never slips. Yet quietly, behind the spectacle, another law governs outcomes. A law that ridicules force and laughs at mastery. Surrender, the one act every ego dreads, is the hidden key that turns the lock. There is a raw, electrifying terror in letting go of control. You have been taught since childhood that to relax your grip is to risk collapse, to invite disaster, to lose your edge and forfeit your dreams. To surrender is to admit vulnerability. Yet, paradoxically, it is at this very threshold, where control dissolves into trust, that the universe delivers its most staggering gifts. There is a reversal written into the code of reality. The less you grasp, the more doors begin to swing open, unforced and unexpected. Think of the countless stories where relentless effort only leads to exhaustion, where pushing harder produces diminishing returns. You double down, triple your effort, wear your willpower to the bone, and yet the universe remains unmoved. Opportunities wither, relationships fray, outcomes slip away. Then, in a moment of surrender, sometimes out of despair, sometimes from sheer fatigue, you let go. Not out of cunning, not as a technique, but because you can no longer bear the strain. And that is when the miraculous happens. Doors that refused to budge suddenly creak open. Pathways you never saw before unfold at your feet. Answers arrive not as hard-won victories, but as gifts. This is the authority reversal. It is the proof that control, for all its appearances, is often the least effective means of shaping reality. The mind resists this revelation. The ego rages against it. Control feels safe even when it is an illusion. It is the armor you wear against the unpredictable, the fortress you build to keep chaos at bay. But the more you invest in controlling every outcome, the more you contract, the more you shrink your own field of possibility. The universe does not conspire against you. It simply ignores the language of force. It is a field of potential, not a mechanism to be bullied or coerced. When you surrender, truly surrender, not as a strategy but as a state, you become a receiver, not a pusher. You open to outcomes beyond your imagining, possibilities that cannot be accessed by sheer will. The act of surrender is not passive. It is not giving up. It is a creative surrender, a willingness to release your obsession with how and when things must happen. It is the courage to allow reality to respond, rather than to dictate terms. In that moment, you stop being the tyrant of your own life and become its curious witness. You move from controller to collaborator, and the field responds with a generosity that force could never summon. Control is limited by what you already know. Surrender is open to what you have never even conceived. The universe, boundless in potential, cannot be contained by your plans, no matter how brilliant. When you relax your grip, when you accept that you do not have the full picture, you invite a wisdom greater than your own to participate. Doors locked by the insistence of my way swing open for the one who lets go. Why does surrendering the outcome unlock doors that force can never open? Because force signals distrust. It says to the universe, I cannot trust you. I must do everything myself. It narrows your energy, focuses you on resistance, makes you blind to all but your own design. Surrender, on the other hand, is a declaration of faith, not in a particular outcome, but in the intelligence of the field itself. It is a willingness to see what else is possible, what else is waiting, what else you might become. There is a rawness to surrender that no amount of positive thinking can replicate. It is the act of stepping off the edge, not knowing if the net will appear. It is the moment you stop pretending to know, stop pretending to be in charge, and open to the unknown. In that space, reality rushes in to meet you. Some may try to fake surrender, to use it as just another tool. But the field cannot be deceived. It listens not to your words, not to your appearances, but to your true signal. The one who surrenders as a tactic is still trying to control. The one who surrenders because they have genuinely let go is now a magnet for the improbable, the impossible, the miraculous. Surrender brings relief, but it also brings fear. The ego whispers that you are risking everything, that chaos will devour you, that outcomes will slip through your fingers. Yet again and again, those who practice surrender find the opposite to be true. Where force failed, relaxation succeeds. Where control narrowed, openness expanded. Where resistance repelled, trust attracted. To surrender is to admit that you do not know, and in that admission, you become available to all that you do not yet understand. Life begins to feel less like a battle and more like a dance. You are still moving, still participating, still caring deeply, but the strain is gone. The field can now collaborate with you, shaping outcomes with an elegance that force can never achieve. If letting go makes what you want chase you, could your greatest power be in giving up control? The answer is hidden in every moment you stop pushing, every breath you release, every expectation you relax. Power is not always found in effort, but in presence. Not always in striving, but in allowing. Not always in mastery, but in mystery. This is the reversal at the heart of creation. Surrender is not the end of authority, it is its transformation. It is the recognition that real power does not dominate, but invites. It does not force, but attracts. It does not demand, but allows. The journey is not to become weaker, but to become available to a strength far greater than your own. To lose control is to gain partnership with the field. To let go is to invite the genius of reality itself to work on your behalf. If you are willing to risk surrender, to move beyond the illusion of control, you may find that the very outcomes you once pursued now seek you out. The doors you could not open with force now swing wide, welcoming you into rooms you never even knew existed. Next, we will confront a deeper shadow. What if the identity you defend every day is the only thing holding you back from everything you want? If letting go creates attraction, what hidden scripts about yourself are sabotaging your every move? What if the identity you defend every day is the only thing holding you back from everything you want? The world is obsessed with identity. It teaches you to know yourself, define yourself, brand yourself. Identity is treated as anchor, compass, shield, a solid point in a shifting universe. Every achievement, every relationship, every status symbol is offered up as a badge, proof that you are someone worth knowing, worth loving, worth remembering. Yet behind this parade of labels and roles, another truth waits like a predator in the dark. The very identity you work so hard to construct may be the prison keeping you from the life you crave. Identity is not just who you are, it is who you are committed to being, even when that commitment sabotages your deepest dreams. You carry stories, picked up in childhood or forged in crisis, that whisper rules about what is possible for someone like you. I am not creative. I am unlucky in love. I am a survivor, not a thriver. I am responsible for everyone. Each statement seems innocuous, even empowering, but each is a line in the sand, a border you dare not cross. These stories form the invisible blueprint of your reality. The universe, impartial and precise, takes your identity as instruction. It matches your experience to the person you insist on being, regardless of whether that person is happy, fulfilled, or free. You may want change, crave transformation, hunger for something radically new, but if your identity cannot contain it, reality will not allow it. Identity is adhesive. It sticks you to your past, your traumas, your victories, your wounds. The more you defend it, the less you can grow. To challenge your identity is to risk annihilation, to step beyond the familiar boundaries of self and flirt with chaos. The mind resists with everything it has, inventing stories, justifying failures, explaining away disappointment. Better to be safe, predictable, known, better to have an identity, any identity, than to face the terror of the unknown. But this is the very trap. Every new outcome, every radical shift, every miracle you seek requires a different identity, a self capable of receiving what you ask for. If you insist on being who you've always been, you will always get what you've always gotten. The field listens for your signal, and your strongest signal is your sense of self. Look closely at your most stubborn patterns. The relationships that never change, the jobs that never satisfy, the limits that never move. At the heart of each is an identity script, a story about who you are, what you deserve, what you can expect. These scripts run automatically, beneath awareness, shaping every choice, filtering every possibility. To step beyond the identity trap is not easy. It is an act of rebellion, a refusal to let your past define your future. It is the willingness to risk not knowing who you are in exchange for becoming who you could be. It is the courage to let go of stories that once protected you, but now imprison you. Some identities are so seductive, so deeply entwined with your sense of safety, that giving them up feels like death. But every breakthrough demands this sacrifice. To receive what you have never had, you must become someone who can have it. To experience new outcomes, you must send a new signal, not just with your thoughts or wishes, but with your very sense of self. This is not self-abandonment. It is self-liberation. The question is not, who am I? But, who am I willing to become? What stories will I stop telling? What roles will I stop playing? What masks will I risk dropping? The universe waits for your answer, ready to deliver the matching experience the moment you shift your identity. If letting go creates attraction, what hidden scripts about yourself are sabotaging your every move? You may find, if you are honest, that the greatest obstacles are not out there, but within the old definitions, the stubborn pride, the comfort of being right, even when it means being stuck. To escape the identity trap, you must become an experimenter, a shapeshifter, a risk-taker. You must be willing to move beyond the safety of who you've been, to embody new states, to play with possibility. The universe rewards the bold not because they are special, but because they are willing to become new people for new realities. Identity, for all its comfort, is the most powerful form of self-sabotage. The person who refuses to question their story will find the plot never changes. But the one who risks transformation, who dares to be new, becomes a magnet for new outcomes, new opportunities, new lives. If you sense that your identity is the cage, not the key, you are already halfway free. The rest is courage, a willingness to let go, to see what else is possible, to become the signal for the future you truly desire. If letting go creates attraction, what hidden scripts about yourself are sabotaging your every move? Next, we will answer a question that bends time itself. Why does acting as if it's already yours create earthquakes in reality? If your identity can be a prison, how does stepping outside of time and living from the outcome break the curse? Why does acting as if it's already yours create earthquakes in reality? There is a hidden doorway in the labyrinth of outcomes, a passage not found by pushing harder, wanting more, or perfecting your plans. This is the entry reserved for the reality hacker, the one who dares to act not from longing, but from completion. To the logical mind, it sounds preposterous. The very notion offends reason. How can pretending something is already yours make any difference at all? Why would the universe respond to your act, your posture, your willingness to inhabit an ending that hasn't yet occurred? Yet, again and again, it is those who embody the end state, who walk as if, speak as if, feel as if the prize is already theirs, who witness reality reorganize itself with seismic speed. This is not about faking it. This is not about wishful thinking, nor is it a performance to trick some universal judge. This is a radical shift of consciousness, a leap beyond the familiar chains of cause and effect. The world teaches you to start at the beginning. Set a goal, make a plan, struggle forward, and hope for the best. But the quantum world does not recognize this timeline. It bends, it loops, it folds back on itself. Possibility is not created in sequence. It emerges from the state you choose to inhabit now. When you choose from the end, you declare to the field, I am this. I have this. This is real to me now, regardless of appearances. You become the frequency of fulfillment before a single external fact has changed. The field, exquisitely sensitive, cannot help but reflect this signal back, not as a reward, but as a natural, automatic response to your new state of being. Notice what happens when you slip into the energy of completion. Doors open that logic said were locked. People appear who hold the missing pieces. Synchronicities multiply. Events reorder themselves to fit your new self-concept. It is not that you force the world into shape. It is that your world has no choice but to match your chosen vibration. You have become the selector, not the seeker. You are reality's architect, not its supplicant. This is the heart of the hack. The field does not distinguish between real and imagined, between earned and received, between deserving and unworthy. It only knows coherence. When your inner state matches the outer goal, the timeline collapses. The future rushes in to meet you because you have ceased to push it away with longing and doubt. The mind will resist. It will shout, "That's not how life works. You can't just pretend." The old scripts of identity and effort will try to pull you back to the safety of the known, to the logic of linear progress. But the logic is a cage, and you are not here to be confined. You are here to see the glitch, to understand that time is not the ruler of outcomes, but the canvas on which you paint them. Acting from the end is an act of faith, yes, but more than that, it is a declaration of authorship. It is the refusal to wait for proof before embodying certainty. It is the willingness to be misunderstood, to look foolish to those trapped in the old paradigm. The world may mock the reality hacker, but reality itself is quietly, invisibly bending in their direction. Some will try to reduce this to a formula, to turn the hack into another method of control. But the field cannot be gamed. It reads the total signal. To choose from the end, you must surrender your old identity, your old limitations, your old timeline. You must become, in every way that matters, the version of yourself who already has, already is, already lives the desired outcome. No force, no pleading, no negotiation. Only being. This is not a denial of effort. Action still matters, but action now flows from completion, not from hunger. You do not act to get. You act because you already are. Every step you take is infused with certainty, and the world, sensing the shift, accelerates to meet you. This is why acting as if it's already yours creates earthquakes in reality. The field does not argue. It obeys. The old sequence, want, plan, work, maybe receive, is upended. The timeline dissolves. The miracle steps forward. Of course, the hack cannot protect you from discomfort. Stepping into the end state often brings your deepest doubts to the surface. Every story of not yet, every wound of not enough, every fear of not possible will rush forward, desperate to reclaim authority. This is not failure. It is the price of hacking reality. You are being asked to hold your frequency, to choose coherence over chaos, to keep returning to the end even when the beginning howls for attention. You will be tested. Circumstances may contradict your chosen state. The old identity will fight for survival. But the more you inhabit the end, the more inevitable the outcome becomes. The field must mirror what you are. Reality cannot resist your coherence. If your identity can be a prison, how does stepping outside of time and living from the outcome break the curse? Because the prison was always constructed from sequence, from waiting, from becoming. When you declare, I am, the cell door vanishes. You are free to choose, free to select, free to shape the story from the ending backward. Some will hesitate, afraid to step into the unknown, afraid to be bold, afraid to fail. But every hesitation is another signal sent, another instruction to the field to maintain the status quo. The reality hacker moves anyway. The reality hacker risks the new, trusts the unseen, becomes the outcome before the outcome exists. This is the true secret. The field does not play favorites. It is not moral, not sentimental. It reflects the dominant frequency. If you choose from the end, the end rushes to meet you. If you remain in the beginning, forever preparing, forever waiting, the story never moves. The power is not in the wish, not in the want, but in the willingness to act as the one who already has. This is not about arrogance. It is not about faking confidence or deceiving yourself. It is about alignment, about coherence, about refusing to let circumstance dictate identity. You are the author, and the story must obey. If you can hold the end, reality has no choice but to fill in the details. Every event, every meeting, every so-called accident will arrange itself around your new signal. Time collapses. Miracles become mundane. Of course, the paradox remains. The more you need proof, the less proof arrives. The more you act from completion, the more evidence rushes in. The hack works only when you have truly let go of the old rules, the old timelines, the old addiction to waiting. If you want to create earthquakes in reality, stop being the seeker and become the selector. Live from the end, not from the beginning. Risk coherence. Risk certainty. Risk being misunderstood, ridiculed, doubted, even by yourself. The universe is waiting for your instruction. If your identity can be a prison, how does stepping outside of time and living from the outcome break the curse? Because in that moment, you are no longer trapped in the cycle of longing and loss. You have become the outcome itself, and the field is compelled to agree. Next, we will question the source of your power. Why is your most potent power the one you're never allowed to see? Now that you know the curse and the hack, what if the ultimate selector is something you can never fully understand, only embody? Why is your most potent power the one you're never allowed to see? Every journey through the layers of desire, effort, and self-concept leads to an unsettling revelation. The further you push into the mechanics of selection, the more elusive the source of real influence becomes. Power, it turns out, is most present when least visible. The paradox of the selector is that the force behind your greatest outcomes is always hidden from view. You cannot grab it, display it, or reduce it to a checklist. You are its vessel, never its master. This is not an accident. The structure of reality is designed to protect the mystery. The selector is the engine behind the curtain, the silent frequency that shapes the field, the hidden hand that rearranges events, the invisible gravity pulling possibilities into your path. The more you seek to observe or control it, the more it recedes, melting into the background of your awareness. Why should this be? Because the conscious mind, in its hunger for certainty, becomes a disruptor, a disturber of the field. When you try to see the selector in action, you collapse the wave, turn the infinite into the finite, the fluid into the frozen. Your greatest influence is always active at the edge of your vision, in the places you cannot consciously grasp. The paradox is infuriating. You want to know, truly know, how and why your reality is changing. You want evidence, confirmation, a sense of agency. But every attempt to measure, prove, or own your influence only serves to scatter its power. The selector is like the wind. You feel its effects, but the moment you try to clutch it, it slips through your fingers. Reality rewards humility, the outcomes that matter most, the sudden breakthroughs, the inexplicable recoveries, the uncanny synchronicities, never announce their arrival. They do not come in response to your cleverness, but to your openness. They are the product of surrender, coherence, and a willingness to trust what you cannot see. The more you let go of the need to control, the more influence you gain. The more you release the need to witness your power in action, the more outcomes shift in your favor. The selector does not thrive under scrutiny. It thrives in the soft focus of trust, the gentle confidence that your state is enough, that your signal is already shaping the field. Why is your most potent power the one you're never allowed to see? Because to see it, to possess it, would be to reduce it to a tool, a commodity, another object to manipulate. The selector is alive only in the act of being, not in the act of measuring. You are being asked to participate in a new relationship with power, one that values the invisible, the uncertain, the emergent. You are being asked to become the signal, to embody the frequency, to live the question without demanding an answer. The field, in return, becomes responsive in ways you cannot predict or map. This is not resignation. It is mastery of a different kind. a mastery that grows in proportion to your willingness to be humble, to be patient, to trust the process without owning it. The Selector operates through you, but never for you alone. Its nature is collective, not personal. Its wisdom is infinite, not individual. There is a peculiar relief in accepting this. You are not required to be omniscient, omnipotent, or infallible. You are only required to be present, coherent, available. The outcomes that matter most will always arrive by unseen routes, with a logic that reveals itself only in hindsight. You will notice, as you release the need to see your power at work, that the world softens around you. Outcomes become more fluid, less forced. Miracles, once rare and unpredictable, become natural. You are less anxious, less desperate, less attached. The field is always listening, and now it is free to deliver its gifts. Now that you know the curse and the hack, what if the ultimate selector is something you can never fully understand, only embody? The invitation is not to become the master, but the partner. Not to own the power, but to express it. Not to measure the influence, but to trust that it is always working in your favor, even when you cannot see the proof. This is the highest form of selection. Living as the outcome, trusting the field, letting the invisible become your ally. The paradox will never resolve. It is the heartbeat of creation, the engine of every miracle. Your greatest power remains invisible because it is woven into the fabric of being itself. To embody it is to step into the flow, to let the universe work through you, to be both the question and the answer at once. Now that you have seen the hidden engine behind every outcome, one final question remains. A paradox at the edge of desire itself. How do you hold a burning desire and absolute detachment at the exact same time? And why is this the only way to win? As you reach the edge of the Selector Secret, what if the last step is to embrace the glitch, to want without wanting, to act without attachment, to attract by becoming the selector, not the seeker? How do you hold a burning desire and absolute detachment at the exact same time? And why is this the only way to win? The air is heavy with contradiction. All paths in this labyrinth of reality, all secrets of the selector, converge here, on the razor's edge where opposites meet, not to be resolved, but to be held. It is the ultimate glitch, the impossible demand to want and not want, to care and not care, to burn with longing, and yet remain untouched by whether the outcome arrives or withers. This is the moment every seeker dreads, every creator resists, every outcome chaser stumbles upon with disbelief. Yet here, in this crucible of paradox, the code of reality is finally revealed. Desire is the flame. It animates, inspires, calls you forward. Without it, life becomes colorless, formless, without motion. The world is shaped by wanting. Empires rise, art is born, revolutions ignite. All because someone, somewhere, wanted something with more intensity than the status quo. And yet, every lesson on the selector's path has shown the same pattern. Pure desire, clutched too tightly, warps the field. The universe, unblinking, reads the hunger beneath your wish and mirrors back the experience of lacking, needing, not having. Detachment is the water. Soothes, cools, dissolves. The sages have whispered it for centuries. Let go, surrender, release your grip on the fruits of your actions. This is not apathy. It is not drifting, nor cynicism. It is the mastery of being unmoved by whether your desire becomes real. It is the art of showing up, giving your all, loving the outcome fiercely, and then letting it walk away, untouched by your expectation. But the mind screams for resolution. It wants either or, not both. Wanting and detachment, together? The mind calls it impossible. How can you care so deeply, move so relentlessly, risk so bravely, only to greet the result with open hands, ready to let it go, as if it were nothing at all? The answer is not a formula. It is not found in steps or systems. It is a glitch in the fabric of being. And it is the only way to win. To want without wanting is to hold the desire, burning and bright, at the center of your life, while simultaneously knowing with absolute certainty that you are already whole, already complete, already fulfilled. It is to act from fullness, not emptiness. To move from love, not need. To let the flame dance, but never let it consume you. This is the selector's final art. How is it done? There are no instructions. There is only a willingness to stand at the intersection of opposites and refuse to choose. The mind will demand you pick a side. The field will respond only to coherence. You must become the paradox, a living signal that radiates intention without attachment, longing without desperation, vision without clinging. All the previous glitches and reversals have pointed here. When you desired, the field showed you lack. When you surrendered, outcomes rushed in. When you chased, the prize ran. When you let go, the doors opened. Each time you pressed too hard, reality pushed back. Each time you stepped into wholeness, possibility multiplied. It was never the strength of your wanting that shaped your fate. It was the quality of your being, how you could want and yet remain free. This is not the story you have been told. The world preaches obsession, total focus, relentless pursuit. Dream big, chase hard, never quit. But the Selector Secret is more subtle, more strange. Want but do not grip. Desire but do not beg. Act but do not attach. Send the signal, then walk away. It is the very tension between wanting and not wanting that powers creation. The energy of desire sends out the order. The clarity of detachment clears the channel for its delivery. If you drop either, the system collapses. Too much wanting and you signal lack. Too much detachment, and the engine of desire stalls. You must become both. Fire and water, will and surrender, creator and witness. You have felt this paradox in moments you may have missed. When you loved deeply, yet did not fear losing. When you tried your best, yet were prepared to start over without resentment. When you gave your heart, yet expected nothing in return. These are the moments the field responded with impossible grace, bending outcomes in your favor with a logic you could never explain. The glitch is not a mistake in reality. It is its finest feature, its greatest protection. If the universe gave every desperate wish, it would destroy itself with noise and contradiction. The only outcomes that persist, that flourish, are those selected by the signal of a coherent being. One who wants without needing, one who creates without clinging. This is the maturity the selector path demands. No more tantrums at the gates of fate. No more begging reality to obey. No more frantic rituals to force your will. You become quiet, steady, burning and detached all at once. You know who you are, what you want, and you also know, at the core, that nothing can add or subtract from your completeness. This is why you must want without wanting. It is not an escape from desire. It is the mastery of it. The universe yields to those who no longer need it to validate their worth. The field arranges itself for the ones who already live the end state, unattached to its arrival. To act, to give, to move forward with intensity, and then to release. To let outcomes come or go, as they will, knowing you are always whole, always the selector. There is agony in learning this. The mind resists, the ego rebels, the heart aches to grip what it loves. Yet the only freedom is found in the balance, fierce, unwavering intention coupled with the wild, courageous willingness to let it all go. As you reach the edge of the Selector Secret, what if the last step is to embrace the glitch, to want without wanting, to act without attachment, to attract by becoming the selector, not the seeker? What if the highest power is not in forcing reality to obey, but in partnering with its wisdom, allowing it to move through you in ways both miraculous and mundane? The journey ends as it began, not with answers but with questions. Can you become the paradox? Can you be the flame and the water? Can you move the world by caring so deeply that you are free from caring at all? This is the selector's final test, the glitch at the heart of creation, the secret that only the brave can hold. There will always be voices urging you to choose, either longing or letting go. But the universe listens for the one who can do both, who can be both, who stands at the center of the storm with open hands. Want but do not want. Move but do not push. Burn but do not consume. In the end, there is no end. There is only the next desire, the next letting go, the next act of faith. The Selector's Secret is not a destination, but a way of being. A signal you send with every breath, every action, every thought. You become the glitch. You become the answer to your own question. So let this paradox haunt you, sustain you, transform you. You have seen the machinery behind the curtain, glimpsed the code-running reality's game. You know now that the prize cannot be chased, the outcome cannot be controlled, the power cannot be possessed, only embodied. Want without wanting, desire without grip, select without needing to see, act with intention, release with trust. This is the glitch that unlocks every door, the signal that shapes every reality, the final step in becoming the selector, not the seeker. And so the journey continues, burning, calm, wanting, free.